about to demonstrate a couple of things. I want to model how, first of all, we want to cue our partners or clients to follow movements that we do, so it's easy for them to just do some active movements with us behaving sort of as a mirror. And then what I also want to do is help reveal some of the bony landmarks that we would be using to appreciate the available range of motion. And right now we're looking at the knee area, and I have my friend John who's going to help us with this demonstration. So John's just going to, he's never done this before. I'm going to do my best to cue him to do certain movements. They're the 4 movements that we're going over, which are knee flexion, knee extension, medial rotation of the tibia, and lateral rotation of the tibia. So what I'm also intending to do is I'm going to act as if I'm also in my midterm, if I were you, how I would want you to demonstrate for me that you have processed the information. So ultimately, I'm going to verbalize what I'm doing and change my frame of reference as I'm viewing him to demonstrate that I know where I'm looking, okay? So John, right now I'm going to ask you to do a couple of movements. You're going to face me. The table's a little low for John's height, but what I'm going to ask you to do, if you need support, because I'm going to have you balance, you're going to stand on one leg and you're going to slowly bend your knee in a moment when I ask you. So if you need, you can hold the table for support. So that's already, I'm establishing safety so that he is not just wobbling and not able to balance. So now what I want to share with you is you are looking at him from the lateral perspective. So just to review what these landmarks are, bring your hand to your abdomen. So here's his greater trochanter, and the greater trochanter, the other landmark, is the lateral condyle of the knee. So I'm using this stick as if it were the stationary arm of the goniometer, okay? And then what he's going to do in a moment, so this would be 0. Here's the head of his fibula. Here's the lateral line of his femur. And here's his popliteal crease. So right now, this is 0 degrees, okay? And what we're looking for in active knee flexion, and he's going to stay still, but if he were to move and I followed his movement, this would be 90 degrees of knee flexion, as you can see. And if you add 45 degrees there, that would be 135 degrees. See that? So this would be 0. This would be 90 degrees. Add another 45 degrees. That's 135. Okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is I'm going to ask you to keep your upper leg in line with your body. You're going to hold on to the table for support and just watch me for a minute. You're going to flex your knee slowly, bringing your heel to your buttocks when I ask you to. So in order for me to now appreciate his movement, even though I faced him so that he didn't have to turn his body to listen to me, he could just look at me, I would come here and see where he is. So I'm going to find his 0. Okay, so you're good to go? Mm-hmm. Okay, so just real slowly, please start to flex your knee as far as you are comfortable without causing any pain. Okay, so here he is, and he is at 90 degrees. Do you have any pain or discomfort? No. Okay, and please drop your leg back down. So he was only able to achieve 90 degrees. Had he gone further, he probably would have had a cramp in his hamstring. That's very common for most of us. Is it okay, John, if I roll your pants leg up?
Yes.
All right. So, sorry. Okay, so right now here is the head of his fib. Soften your knee a little, bend. So here's his fibula, his fibular shaft. Here's his head of his fibula. Here's his lateral malleolus. And here's his greater trochanter, and this is the lateral line of his fibula, of his femur. So this is his popliteal space right here. So this is the lateral condyle. Here is the head of his fibula. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to straighten your knee as far as you can by pushing your kneecap behind you. Okay? I'll tell you when. Okay, so slowly go ahead. Good. All right. So the normal degrees of motion for active knee extension is 0 to -15. 0 to -15. John is presenting with a little bit of hyperextension, maybe -5 or less. That's still within normal range. Are you comfortable? Any pain? Okay, so you can soften your knee. We're just going to go into the two other movements in the knee, which are very subtle. People rarely isolate these movements: medial and lateral rotation of the tibia. When would we ever do that in isolation? Hardly ever. So it's a really odd thing to ask someone to do. So this would be an example of also kinesthetically cueing them to do it by moving them passively and then having them do it on their own. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to do this with your lower leg. Just relax your upper leg. And you were going to see if you can turn your lower leg in like that. It's a very small movement without changing the position of your upper leg. Mm-hmm. So this is called medial rotation, where we're looking for 20 to 30 degrees. And then the next movement would be lateral rotation. We're looking for 30 to 40 degrees. So go ahead. Good. Any discomfort?
Yeah,
little
ankle.
Yeah, okay. And come back to neutral. And now out towards me. Lateral rotation. Good. Any discomfort?